Boss fired me for calling out deadly construction scam. Then Boise's Skyline shook. They didn't just fire me. They stole my tools, my reputation, and 30 years of my life in one afternoon. I wasn't difficult, I was right. If this story moves, you don't forget to drop a comment and subscribe to Revenge with Jack for more unforgettable stories that speak to the heart. I'm Daniel Whitaker, 51, a construction supervisor in Boise, Idaho. 3 decades in the dirt and steel of this trade, warehouses, strip malls, high-rises. I've felt the shudder of a bad beam, heard the groan of a failing weld. My hands are calloused, my back aches, but my pride, ironclad. My life's good, not flashy. A 3-bedroom ranch house mortgage, half paid. A 17 Ford F-150, no payments left. My wife, Marissa, 42, keeps me honest. She's a paralegal, sharp as a tack with a laugh that still makes my chest tight. No kids, just us and a mutt named Rusty. We're not rolling in millions, but we've got savings of 401k and enough for a steak dinner every Friday. That's my world. Or it was. Last spring, I landed the biggest job of my career. Skyline Plaza, an 8-story office complex, all glass and ambition, set to redefine Boise's skyline. My employer, a mid-sized construction firm, let's call it Apex Builders, had a solid rep pulling in $60 million a year. My salary, $125,000 plus overtime and bonuses. Not bad for a guy who started as a laborer hauling rebar at 18. I ran a crew of 20 good men like Pete Dawson, 56, a welder with stories older than my truck, and Luis Rivera, 32, a climber who sent half his paycheck to his mom in Mexico. They trusted me. I didn't let them down. The job started strong. Blueprints were tight, permits cleared, and the first 2 floors went up smooth. Then we hit delays, supply chain snags, weather the usual. Investors got antsy, and Apex brought in a new project manager, Randy Melton, 48. Randy was all Polish-tailored suits, slicked back hair, and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He had an MBA, a corner office vibe, and 0 days on a job site. First meeting, he shook my hand too hard, said, "Dan, let's make this quick and profitable." I nodded, but my gut said trouble. Guys like Randy don't build, they manage, and they don't care what breaks as long as the numbers add up. Randy's mantra, speed. We're 6 weeks behind, he'd snap, pacing the site with his tablet Bluetooth earpiece blinking. Investors want Skyline done by Q3. No excuses. Fine, I get deadlines, but construction isn't an app you update overnight. Rush the wrong thing and people die. I'd seen it, a scaffold collapse in '99, a buddy pinned under steel. I wasn't about to let that happen here. Trouble started fast. Week 1 under Randy, I spotted issues. Scaffolding on the east side, suede bolts were undersized, not rated for the load. I climbed up, checked the specs myself. Junk. I snapped photos, sent them to Randy with a note. These need replacing. Unsafe. His reply came in 10 minutes. Noted. Keep your crew moving, Dan. Noted. That's it. I sent another email, CC'd the safety officer, Marissa Coleman. No response. Marissa, 42, was Apex's compliance lead. Tough, smart, with a law degree she downplayed. We'd worked together 5 years, trusted each other like siblings. She'd caught shady subcontractors and missing permits before anyone else. I knew she'd have my back. But even she seemed swamped, buried in Randy's new efficiency protocols. Then the rebar came. Steel rods for the concrete core, critical for an 8-story build. I was on site when the truck rolled in. The paperwork raised a red flag. Grade 40 rebar, not grade 60. Weaker stuff meant for low-rise projects, not a high-rise like Skyline. I told the driver to hold off, grabbed the invoice, and double-checked. My heart sank. This wasn't a typo, it was a cost-cutting swap. I called the supplier. They confirmed. Apex ordered the cheaper grade to save time. Save time. This was a disaster waiting to happen. I marched to Randy's trailer, invoice in hand. He was on a call, feet on the desk, laughing like he owned the place. I waited, jaw tight. He hung up, didn't look up. "What's up, Dan?" I slid the invoice across. "Wrong rebar. Grade 40, not 60. This won't hold the load." He barely glanced at it. "Supplier mix-up." "It's fine. Pour the concrete." I leaned in, voice low. "Randy, this is a high-rise. You pour with this, the core could crack. People die." He smirked, tapped his pen. "You're overreacting. We're on a budget. Move it along." I didn't budge. "I'm not signing off on this." His eyes went cold. "Careful, Dan. You're a supervisor, not a decision-maker. Don't make this a problem." I walked out, pulse hammering. Problem. I was trying to stop one. Back on site, I told my crew to hold off pouring. Pete raised an eyebrow. "Boss, you sure? Melton's gonna flip." I nodded. "Let him. I'm not burying us in a lawsuit or worse." I spent the afternoon documenting. Photos of the rebar batch numbers, even a video of the wobbly scaffolding. I emailed it all to Marissa and Randy, subject line. "Safety violations urgent," Marissa replied. "Got it. Reviewing now." Randy. "Nothing. The next day, Randy called a site meeting. Full crew 7 a.m. He stood on a crate wind whipping his tie and laid into us. We're behind because of delays. Unnecessary delays. His eyes flicked to me. Some of you are slowing us down playing inspector instead of doing your jobs. That stops now. My crew shifted uneasy. Pete muttered, "What's his deal?" I kept my face stone. Randy was marking me. That night I sat in my garage sipping bourbon staring at my toolbox. A beat-up Craftsman worth $2,800 every wrench earned through sweat. Marissa, my wife, poked her head in. "You okay, Dan?" I shrugged. "Just work." She sat her hand on mine. "You're doing the right thing. Don't let that suit push you around." I squeezed her hand. She was my rock. Always had been. Friday it hit the fan. I was checking welds on the 4th floor when Marissa called. "Dan, I found something in the supplier contracts. Meet me at lunch." Before I could ask more, Randy's voice boomed over the radio. "Whitaker, my trailer. Now." I climbed down dust on my boots and walked in. Randy wasn't alone. 2 security guards, big ex-cop types, stood by the door. "Dan," Randy said, voice flat, "you're done." "Insubordination. Clear out." I laughed, stunned. "You're firing me." "For what?" "Keeping this site safe." He didn't blink. "You're a liability. Badge." "Now." The guard stepped closer. My blood boiled, but I handed over my badge. "My tools," I said. "I'll grab them." Randy shook his head. "We'll ship them." "Go." They escorted me out past my crew. Luis stared mouth open. Pete yelled, "This is Bull Melton." I waved him off. No need for them to catch heat. In my truck, I gripped the wheel knuckles white. 30 years gone. My phone buzzed Randy. His text, "Stay out of Boise's job sites, Dan. You're blacklisted." Blacklisted. For doing my job? Then Marissa texted. "Found proof. Randy's hiding something big. Meet me at the diner 1 p." I started the engine jaw set. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Randy wanted a fight. He'd get one. And I'd make sure it was a revenge story he'd never forget. I sat across from Marissa Coleman in the diner, the hum of a jukebox cutting through the grease-scented air. Her laptop screen glowed numbers and names staring back like a confession. "This isn't just bad rebar, Dan," she said, voice low, eyes darting to the door. "Apex is running a scam. Cheap materials, inflated invoices, and Randy's signing off on every cent." I leaned in, pulse quickening. The spreadsheet showed it all, thousands in discrepancies. Bolts fireproofing even the concrete mix. Substandard. Ordered deliberately. "They're pocketing the savings," Marissa said, tapping a column. "And it's not just Randy. Carl Hensley's name is on every order." Carl Hensley, 60 Apex's CFO, Boise's golden boy. He coached Little League, sang, and the church choir shook hands at every Chamber of Commerce mixer. If he was dirty, this wasn't a mistake, it was a machine. "How deep does this go?" I asked, voice tight. Marissa's jaw clenched. "Deep enough to bury us both." She slid a printout across. "Emails between Randy and Carl, cryptic but damning." One line from Carl. "Keep Whitaker quiet. He's a problem." I felt the air shift heavy like the moment before a beam snaps. They weren't just cutting corners. They were building a house of cards, and I was the gust about to knock it down. I drove home the Boise Skyline, jagged against the dusk. My wife Marissa. My Marissa was in the kitchen chopping onions, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. I hadn't told her about the firing, the blacklist, the threat in Randy's text. She'd worry, and I wasn't ready to drag her into this storm. But my mind churned. Skyline Plaza wasn't just steel and glass, it had housed accountants, lawyers' families. One bad day, a quake, a fire, and those cheap materials would collapse. Lives would end. My crew, Pete Lewis guys with kids and mortgages, deserve better. I grabbed my phone, typed out every flaw I'd seen. Wobbly scaffolding, weak rebar, rushed welds. I sent it to Marissa Coleman, labeled OSHA report. Then I called Pete. "You still on site?" I asked. His voice was low, tense. "Yeah. Randy's got us on triple shifts. Guys are whispering, Dan, they know shit's off." I gripped the phone. "Document everything. Photos, batch numbers. And watch your back." He grunted. "Way ahead of you." Next morning, I hit the ground running. No job, no tools, but I wasn't out. I met Tom Grayson, 58, at a dive bar across town. Tom, a former contractor turned state licensing board rep, had a face like weathered oak and a bullshit detector sharper than mine. Over lukewarm coffee, I laid it out, the rebar swap, Marissa's spreadsheet, Carl's signatures. Tom's eyes narrowed. "Apex has dodged audits before, Dan. Small stuff, fudged overtime, unlisted subs. But Carl Hensley, that's a nuke." He leaned back, sipping his coffee. "I'll flag it for a state audit, but you're poking a bear." "Randy's got buddies in the mayor's office." I nodded, jaw set. "Let him come." I'm not backing down. That afternoon, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Whitaker." A woman's voice shaky. "It's Jenna Walsh. Apex Procurement." Jenna, 35, was a ghost in the office. Quiet, always buried in purchase orders. "I heard you got canned," she said. "I've got something you need." We met at a dog park, her standing by a bench, clutching a thermos like a lifeline. She handed me a USB drive, eyes scanning the trees. Fake invoices, she whispered. Doctored test reports. Emails between Randy Carl and a city inspector. They're bribing him to sign off on the junk materials. I turned the drive over in my hand, small but heavy. Why me? I asked. She bit her lip. You're the only one who didn't look the other way. Back home, I plugged the USB in. Jenna wasn't exaggerating. The files were a goldmine, emails detailing kickbacks to a city official named Vince Russo, 55, a councilman with a smile too wide, and a rap sheet of favors. They'd faked concrete compression tests, swapped fireproofing for a brand that flunked code. One email from Randy to Carl made my skin crawl. Whitaker's a loose end. Blacklist isn't enough. We need him gone. Gone. My fists clenched. This wasn't just about my job, they were ready to crush me. I called Marissa Coleman. Jenna delivered, I said. We've got enough to sink them. She was quiet then. Dan, I had a visitor. Apex's lawyer. They know I'm digging. My stomach lurched. They threaten you. She laughed sharp. Not directly. But they're circling. We need to move fast. We planned it out. She'd finalized the OSHA report. I'd cross-checked Jenna's data. But a question gnawed at me. Randy was a prick, but he wasn't this smart. Who was running the show? The first twist hit like a freight train. Pete texted me at midnight, a grainy photo attached. Found this in Randy's trailer. A blueprint, but not Skyline's approved plan. This one showed thinner beams, less rebar, a skeleton too weak for 8 stories. My heart pounded. They hadn't just swapped materials, they'd redesigned the building to cut costs, knowing it'd never pass inspection. I called Pete. Who's seen this? He hesitated. Just me, but Luis is asking questions. He's pissed about the overtime. I cursed. Tell him to keep quiet. This could get ugly. Pete grunted. Too late. He's already mouthing off. Next morning I met Marissa at her office, a cluttered cube in Apex's HQ. She looked like she hadn't slept, eyes red, coffee cup empty. OSHA's launching a site inspection, she said. But there's more. She slid a photo across her desk, a blurry still from a parking garage camera. Randy shaking hands with Vince Russo. Kickbacks, Marissa said. Vince is greasing permits for Apex. In return, they're bankrolling his campaign. I leaned back, head spinning. This wasn't fraud, it was a conspiracy tangled in Boise's power structure. Then came the second twist. Jenna called, voice trembling. Dan, they know about the USB. Someone saw us at the park. My blood ran cold. Who? She choked back a sob. I don't know. But Randy's shredding procurement files. He's unhinged. I told her to stay home, lock her doors. A leak. Someone was watching. I thought of Luis, too loud with his complaints. Pete sneaking photos. Even Tom, whose audit promise felt too clean. Trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. That night I got a text from an unknown number. Back off Whitaker, or Marissa pays. My heart stopped. Not Marissa Coleman, my wife. I sped home, truck roaring. She was fine, curled on the couch with Rusty watching a cop show. I hugged her, heart hammering. Dan, you're shaking, she said, frowning. I forced a smile. Long day, but sleep was a stranger. I sat up staring at my phone, the threat burned into my brain. They'd crossed a line. This was personal. The third twist came at dawn. Tom Grayson called. Dan, I dug into Apex's financials. Carl's not just signing off, he's got a shell company. Half the material savings are funneled to him. I gripped the phone, rage boiling. Carl the Saint was the puppet master. There's more, Tom said. Randy's a decoy. Carl's setting him up to take the fall if this blows. I laughed, bitter. Randy the cocky suit was just a pawn. Carl had played us all. I met Marissa Coleman at a truck stop, our new spot to dodge eyes. She had OSHA's prelim report violations on every page. They're halting Skyline, she said. But Carl's spinning it. He's saying you faked evidence because you got fired. I snorted. May. They're desperate. She nodded, but her eyes were hard. They're also dangerous. I got another visit. They offered me a promotion to shut up. I stared. You didn't? She cut me off. Of course not. But they're scared, Dan. That's when they're deadliest. The final twist landed like a gut punch. Pete called, voice low. My cousin, Eddie, Apex Security. He heard Randy and Carl last night. They're planning to burn the site office. Wipe the records before OSHA digs deeper. I froze. Arson. They'd torch their own site to save their asses. When? I asked. Pete's voice shook. Tonight. After shift. I hung up, jaw set. Randy, Carl, Vince, they thought they could erase me, my crew, my city. But I wasn't running. This revenge story was mine to finish, and I'd make sure they felt every second of it. I sat in my truck, parked a block from Apex's site. The sky bruised purple. My phone glowed with Pete's text. Fires set for midnight. Office trailer. My jaw tightened. Randy and Carl weren't just covering tracks. They were willing to burn evidence, maybe the whole damn site, to save themselves. I glanced at the passenger seat. Jenna's USB, Marissa Coleman's OSHA report, and a burner phone I'd bought that morning. No turning back. This ended tonight. I called Marissa Coleman. They're torching the office, I said, voice low. Midnight. She sucked in a breath. Jesus, Dan, you sure? I nodded, though she couldn't see. Pete's cousin overheard them. We need to catch them red-handed. She was quiet then. I'm in, but we need backup. OSHA's inspection starts tomorrow. They'll need hard evidence. I gripped the wheel. I'll get it. You stay safe, she snorted. Not a chance. Meet me at the site 11 p.m. Bring the burner. At 10:30. I slipped into a black hoodie and parked near Skyline's perimeter, lights off. The site was quiet, cranes looming like ghosts. Marissa met me by the east fence, her face half lit by a street lamp. She handed me a tiny camera pen-sized clip to my jacket. Records, video, and audio, she whispered. If they're setting a fire, we need proof. I nodded, adrenaline spiking. What about you? She patted her bag. I've got my own. Plus, I called a contact at the fire marshal's office. They're on standby. I raised an eyebrow. You don't ATF trademark to mess around? She smirked. Not when they threaten my city. We split up. I crept toward the office trailer, sticking to shadows. The air smelled of diesel and dust. My heart pounded, but my steps were steady. 30 years on sites like this, I knew every blind spot, every creak of the gravel. At 11:45, a pickup rolled in, headlights off. Randy. He stepped out, glancing around, a gas can in one hand. My stomach twisted. He wasn't just a suit, he was reckless. I started the camera, its red light blinking faintly. Randy slipped inside the trailer. I edged closer, crouching behind a stack of rebar. Through the window, I saw him dousing files, splashing gas on a desk. My burner buzzed Marissa. Carl's here. Westgate. Shit. Both of them. I texted back. Stay back. I've got Randy. Seconds later, Carl's SUV pulled up. He moved fast, for 60, carrying a duffel. I zoomed the camera. He unzipped it, more gas cans. They were going all in. Then the first twist. A third figure emerged from the dark. Vince Russo, the councilman. His tie was loose, face sweaty. This better work, Hensley, he hissed, voice carrying. If OSHA finds those blueprints, my career's done. Carl grunted. Relax. Fire cleans everything. Whitaker's evidence goes with it. My blood ran cold. They knew about the USB, the photos, everything. I steadied the camera, hands shaking. This wasn't just fraud. It was a cover-up tied to City Hall. I texted Marissa. Vince is here. Recording now. Her reply was instant. Fire marshal's 2 minutes out. Hold tight. Hold tight? Randy was splashing gas like a man possessed. I had to move. I crept to the trailer's back door, silent, and slipped inside. The stench of gas choked me. Randy's back was turned, muttering to himself. I hid behind a file cabinet, camera rolling. He lit a match. My heart stopped. Burn, you bastard, he growled, tossing it onto a pile of papers. Flames licked up fast. I bolted, slamming the door behind me. The fire roared, lighting the trailer like a beacon. Randy spun, eyes wide. Who's there? I didn't answer, sprinting for cover. Carl and Vince were shouting, their silhouettes frantic against the glow. Sirens wailed, fire trucks close. Marissa's contact had come through. I ducked behind a crane as the marshal's team rolled in, lights flashing. Randy tried to run, but a firefighter tackled him. Carl froze, hands up. Vince bolted for his SUV, but a cop car cut him off. It was chaos, beautiful chaos. Marissa found me by the fence, her face flushed. You get it? She asked. I tapped the camera. Every second, she grinned fierce. Good. Let's bury them. We slipped away, my truck blending into the night. Back home, I uploaded the footage to a secure drive and sent copies to Marissa, Tom Grayson, and a reporter I knew at the Idaho Statesman, Lisa Harper, 45, a bulldog who'd sniffed out corruption before. By dawn, OSHA had the video and Lisa was drafting a front-page expose. The second twist hit at noon. Tom called. Dan, you won't believe this. Carl's shell company. It's tied to a bigger player. I frowned. Bigger than Vince. Tom's voice dropped. Way bigger. Apex's parent company, some holding group in Seattle. They've been pulling the same scam across 5 states. My head spun. This wasn't just Boise. It was a network, a hydra with Carl as one head. Why tell me? I asked. Tom sighed. Because you started this, and they're coming for you. He wasn't wrong. That afternoon, my burner buzzed a voicemail from an unknown number. Whitaker, a man's voice rasped. You think you're clever? Drop this or your wife's firm gets audited. Her job's gone. My blood boiled. Marissa. My Marissa worked at a small law firm, no connection to Apex. They were hitting her to break me. I stormed inside, told her everything. Her eyes blazed. They think they can scare us, she said, grabbing her laptop. I'm calling my boss. We'll sue their asses for harassment. I loved her fire, but fear gnawed at me. This was deeper than I'd imagined. The third twist came that night. Lisa Harper met me at a bar, her notebook thick with scribbles. Your video's gold, she said. But there's a wrinkle. One of Apex's board members flipped. I leaned in. Flipped. She nodded. Henry Tate, 62. Old money, semi-retired. He's been collecting dirt on Carl for years, didn't trust him. When he saw your footage, he went to the feds. I blinked. The feds, Lisa smirked. FBI's involved now. Wire fraud, bribery, arson. Carl's done. Randy, too. Vince is singing to save himself. I drove home, head reeling. The FBI, a board member. This revenge story had outgrown me. Skyline's site was shut down the next day, yellow tape everywhere. OSHA's report hit the news. Violations so bad the building was deemed unsafe. Demolition crews were called. Apex's stock tanked, their parent company under federal scrutiny. Randy was arrested, cuffed on live TV. Carl lawyered up, but his shell company's accounts were frozen. Vince resigned, his campaign dead. The final twist wasn't loud, it was quiet, and it cut deep. Pete pulled me aside at a diner, his hands shaky. Dan, I gotta tell you something. Luis. He was working with Randy. I stared, gut-punched. Luis. My climber. Pete nodded, eyes down. Randy paid him to spy on you. Those questions he asked. He was feeding Randy your moves? I felt sick. Luis, who I'd mentored, who I'd trusted. Why tell me now? I asked. Pete sighed. He came clean to me last night. Guilty as hell. He's turning state's evidence. I nodded numb. Betrayal stung worse than Randy's threats. Weeks later, I stood on a new site working for a smaller firm, Boise Builders, $10 million a year, honest work. They'd hired me as a senior supervisor, $130,000, no questions about my past. Marissa Coleman joined too as their compliance chief. Pete and Jenna came aboard, loyal to the end. Luis, he disappeared, probably in witness protection. My tools, never got him back. But I bought new ones, paid cash. My wife's firm dodged the audit, and she was fiercer than ever, planning a civil suit against Apex's remnants. I watched the sunset, my hard hat scratched but solid. Boise's Skyline looked different without Skyline Plaza. Cleaner somehow. I'd done what I set out to do, exposed the truth, protected my crew, my city. But at what cost? Friends lost. Trust broken. And that question lingered. Had I gone too far? Carl was in jail, Randy disgraced, Vince a pariah. But the parent company, still out there lurking. Did I win or just start a bigger fight? I don't have answers. Maybe you do. Was I right to keep pushing even when they came for my wife? Or should I have walked away, let the city handle its own rot? Like what you heard. Hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Revenge with Jack. Because the next story might just be your favorite one yet.